Okay, here we go. First separated out video that may be a podcast if I get enough of these. Recorded in the early dawn light after training under the light of a full hunter's moon. I don't know if you guys got to see that moon over the last couple days. Man, it was like a spotlight night before last when it was at its fullest. It's really neat when you can go outside and you see like shadows cast on the ground by moonlight from the trees and stuff. Reminds me very much of the old cowboy western, especially TV shows. You would see, I mean, obviously on reruns when I was a kid, not that old, but they always would have like nighttime scenes, and nighttime scenes never look like actual night because it's dark as hell out at night. But it would just be kind of like a dim and blue lighted nighttime scene that put filters over the cameras when they were filming. They'd film in broad daylight. But I always noticed that like there were shadows on the ground as at nighttime. I was like, huh, that's interesting. And I didn't think of it as a kid that it wasn't real. But it's very neat to see the moonlight bright enough to see that same kind of experience in real life. It's fun. I was a weird kid. I really loved it's an old movie called Night of the Grizzly. So I was a horror fan from way back. That was a really fun one. It was a western, kind of I don't know, kind of like Revenant. Somebody being gets stalked and attacked by a grizzly bear. Anyway, I digress. You just started. So I'm sure these will be more thought out as I go. Right now, it's just getting some reps in, and I guess that means you guys are getting these at a more frequent cadence. Cool. Um, it's also shit quality, so there's a trade-off. But I was thinking today about the phrase "discipline equals freedom," and I really do like it. It made a big difference to me when I discovered Jocko Willink. He's been, well, he's had a podcast for at least 8 years because November is going to be my 8 years in jiu-jitsu, and I started listening to him just before. Yeah, I had found Tim Ferriss, then Joe Rogan, and then I found Jocko through Tim Ferriss, and then the rest is history. But between him and Jordan Peterson, I mean, there's a lot of cool, entertaining, informative stuff out there, but those two guys made a big impact on me when I was going through, I don't know, I guess maybe early, well, hopefully early midlife life crisis in my mid 30s. I'd like to live past 70. But when I stopped drinking, I kind of hit several points at the same time at around 34, 35, where I had had an emotional attachment to a previous relationship that I just hadn't let go of. And I finally was able to just detach from that and realize it was gone, it was done, it was never going to be any good for me, and I could move on with my life, and I let that go. And it was like having been in a monster truck in a mud pit with just spinning the tires at full speed, not getting anywhere because you're in a mud pit and it's hard to get traction. Plus, you got yourself chained to something on the bank. Well, as soon as you cut that chain, you're not going anywhere fast, but it is possible to start making headway. And once I did that, it made a difference. And I started to realize that I didn't have to drink to deal with things to get through the day. I didn't really care for who I was as a drinker. And I'm not saying like this was a big revelation and I made all these wonderful choices. I also had drank myself to the point that I think my liver was probably starting to malfunction a little bit because I would have odd results in, I would drink one can of beer and be stumbling, slurring drunk. Or other times I would be drinking like a fish without much effect. And those are not good signs. So I gave it up, um, which sucked. I really liked it, but it wasn't serving me anymore. And it opened up a lot of mental space and time in my life. And that's when I found podcasts, and that's when I really started to look at who I was. And it turns out I went through a lot of 12-step program steps, not realizing it, just doing the work of trying to be a better person than I was. And I kind of accepted who I was and where I was starting from, and I didn't like it, but that's okay because it was the starting point. You don't have to like where you are. You just have to know that you have to be realistic about where you are and then figure out where you want to go. And Jordan Peterson and Jocko Willink both explained a lot of the things that I had been exposed to and experienced in life, and they gave me the adult perspective on it and how to use it, and either overcome it or develop it and use the changes to better myself. And Jocko's big thing is discipline equals freedom. I'm not a huge slogans and sayings guy. I don't tend to wear a lot of flashy t-shirts and stuff. Like grunt style is a very big thing now, and while I was in the military, and I think they have some cool t-shirts, um, yeah, I'm just not into it. That and like everybody who wears grunt style looks like a poser wannabe or has been. But Jocko t-shirts are one of the few things like I'll actually wear those because I I believe in whatever it is it's saying. I don't like to wear things that I don't endorse, that I don't believe in. And I'm trying to change from being the guy in a logo t-shirt, cargo shorts into somebody a little bit better dressed. But discipline equals freedom is a shirt that I wear a lot. And it really, for me, rings true. And I think that's what I like about Jocko's ethos is, yeah, there's no quick steps. There's no secret formula. You just have to do the hard thing a lot, repeatedly, take responsibility for your own actions, and be disciplined about how you live your life, and you'll get whatever it is you're going for. That's it. You don't need to pay Tony Robbins thousands of dollars. You don't need a hype man. You have to do the work, and you have to buckle down and go for it. And this really came to light to me across this whole journey of trying to better myself. Jiu-jitsu has been huge in giving me a practical application for it. But another spot that it really pops up in my life is in my diet and exercise. Uh, I'll probably eventually put up some pictures if I make this podcast. I'll put up some pictures as like the thumbnail so you can see what I mean. But I used to be a very heavy guy compared to what I am now. This morning I was 172 pounds. At my heaviest, I've been just over 250 pounds, and I've banged off both of those weights a couple times in life. So as a teenager, I was like 250, signed up for the military, came out of boot camp at 170. Uh, Stayed in the 180s for most of my military time. Uh, Ballooned immediately at the end of my term of service, right back up to the 240s, 250s, and then spent years yo-yoing between 200 and 250, depending on what I was doing. And then since my daughter's been born, at one point, like I was in the 230s, I think, at one point, and I used to ride a motorcycle, and I realized like I just took a quick trip to the store or something, and like my pants hurt from sitting on the bike. Like, I was fat, I couldn't fit in my pants, and then I climbed up to the third story apartment I was in, and like I had to go lay down and breathe heavily on the bed and hear my blood pulsing in my ears. Like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And that's when I started to really drop down to staying around 200, maybe a little under. And then when I stopped drinking and got into fitness and changing my life around, and it started to sneak down under 200 for the most part. So the more discipline I threw in there about my diet and exercise, the more freedom I've had to wear clothing that I like, to go do things, to be able to pursue jiu-jitsu, to hopefully live a little bit longer and have a higher quality of life. My physical training has been, to make jiu-jitsu easier, but honestly, the goal has been, for the last 5-6 years, long-term goal is looking at being able to stand up and wipe my own ass in my 80s and 90s. Really, that's it, because there's a fair chance that I'll live that long. My great-grandparents both lived into their late 80s and 90s. My grandfather just passed in his 80s. So there's a lot of history on my mom's side of people living quite long as they don't drink themselves to death and get diabetes, and dementia is something to worry about in our family. Then on my dad's side, we do have like heart disease and stuff. So this is also trying to help that. Everything I'm doing combats both diabetes, dementia, and heart disease. So I figure I got a fair chance. But I don't want to be that old person who is enfeebled and can't get around on their own. I'm a very independent person, and I'm sure most people say like hyper independent people are coping for something. I probably am, but it doesn't change that I am a very independent person. I don't want to ever have to depend on somebody really for anything, but especially for the basic necessities of life and locomotion. So, anyways, the discipline equals freedom. I've done some dieting this year. Some of it intentional, some of it just like, the weight came off as I was upping the intensity of my training earlier this year for the first competition I did. After that, I was like, I've made some real progress here. And I made the decision that 43 years old, you have to make the choice before you no longer have the choice of how you want the future to go. And it seems to me that quite often people either balloon or kind of winnow away as they get older. And I would much rather be the scrawny, wiry old guy than the fat guy who can't get out of a chair. But there is the third option of you develop a regimen of strength training and just never stop. And eventually you end up being that old guy who you're like, wow, that guy's still pretty fit. That's impressive. It's way more common now than it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you didn't see a whole lot of really fit old guys. Maybe Jack Palance, Jack LaLanne, but like old guys in their 60s and 70s who were still fit was very weird to see when I was a kid. But now it's a lot more common. You see people, especially in their 50s, it's like, they're still in their 20s and 30s. It's crazy. I know a lot of that is TRT and steroids, but there's still a lot of folks who just are your average CrossFit goer that are just really fit. So I think our science of exercise has gotten a lot better. Nutrition has gotten a lot better. Just the dissemination of information through the internet has made things way more available to people. And I also think because our daily life has gotten very easy, very soft, and our culture has started to soften a little bit. In some ways, that's good. You can have feelings and express them and reach out to people and develop great relationships and get the emotional support you need. Those are awesome things. But I also think there is a flip side to that where we try to cushion a little too much. I think when we're telling people that they can be 400 pounds and body positive, man, yeah, you should have some love for yourself, but I don't think expressing it that way is going to be the healthiest thing for you. So I think people are looking to challenge and make themselves harder a bit too, at least the subset of people that I tend to interact with and seek out. So I decided I'm going to try for that third path and be the fit old guy. If you've seen the movie Gran Torino, freaking love that movie. And I love Clint Eastwood's character. I want to be Clint Eastwood's character without the racist asshole side of things, but he's probably late 70s, early 80s when he filmed that movie because he's in his 90s now. And there's a scene in it where, yeah, he's an old guy and he's just kind of walking around and he's got the old guy trousers and he's the last member of the Members Only Jacket Club. And he stops some thugs who are accosting this young woman, and they're like, "What the hell is this guy going on about?" But he's just there, and he's just being a tough guy. He's like, "You ever met somebody you just should have fucked with? That's me." And even though he's in his 80s, he convincingly pulls off that, like, yeah, maybe you should take a step back and think about messing with this person. I don't want to be able to have the self-confidence and the physique, the ability to move around that would allow me to feel the same way or present myself the same way at that age. Possibly unrealistic, but it's a goal. So to bring it back and finally get to my point, I've been dieting the last few weeks. Took a break this week, and I'm going to start just doing some maintenance, just kind of relaxing, eating what I want. We had a wedding this past weekend. We went to cookout with friends, and then my wife and I had our anniversary yesterday, and we're going to celebrate it this weekend. So I knew this was going to be kind of a societal pressure about food week, and that's cool. And usually I'll just have salad. It doesn't matter, but I figured, live a little. And it's not great to be fat loss dieting for months to no end without giving your body some leeway there in between. So I'm going to change up my workout routine, be a little bit more bodybuilding focused so that I can use lighter weights and develop some hypertrophy to get the physique that I would want, but also use lighter weights because it's easier on the joints. You're going to build muscle around them to help protect them. I will eventually get back into like strength training, but I'm going to cycle between hypertrophy and strength in the years to come. And being off the diet this week, being off of my normal eating routine, because I'm generally pretty disciplined about my eating. I can't seem to eat gluten products, so that really helps. Uh, and I just feel like crap this week from the food and from having a lighter workout schedule as I'm prepping to go into this new one. I'm just kind of taking it easy. It's too cold for me to comfortably enjoy doing my kettlebells. So it's been a lot of walking, just some jujitsu, not a lot of weights. And between those two things, that lack of discipline in my normal daily life, I don't feel as good. I feel puffy, I've got water weight, and just general inflammation. And it's fun to see the proof of like discipline equals freedom goes through a lot of different things financially, diet, exercise, all sorts of different things. And it's good every now and again, even though it's not comfortable, to get reminded of it by taking these little breaks. Yeah, it's fun to be able to just like, yeah, I'm going to have that cheesesteak sandwich, or I'm going to eat this piece of pie or candy or whatever. Yes, very fun in the moment. I'm all about mouth pleasure. But, hey, but, but it, it shows up really quickly for me that it's not beneficial to me. And honestly, I've just been like looking forward to Monday, like, oh, thank God, I'm going to be able to go back to like nice normal eating. And yes, I could eat normal now, but I'm also not putting any pressure on myself about my diet one way or the other right now. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to have a little fun this weekend. After that, 10 weeks, very closely monitored to what I'm doing and aligned to my goals. Then a little 2 week, 3 week break for some muscle building. Then another little paring down session. Very disciplined, very structured, and really kind of trying to plan out the next year or two of scheduled training and growth. So I find a lot of benefit from discipline. If you're listening to this, we probably have similar views, or we're at least open-minded enough to appreciate each other's views. So I'd like to hear what it does for you. If you have noticed any points in your life where I have, yeah, you're right. If I'm just strict with myself about this thing, I notice the benefit, and it's worth the short-term self-denial for the long-term benefit. If not, if you never tried it, give it a shot. Pick something small. Tim Ferriss does it with brushing his teeth because he doesn't like to brush his teeth. I mean, pick your poison, pick your battle. Start small, make your bed, whatever you got to do to pick your discipline, and just do it for an extended period, and then pick another thing once that becomes habit. And I think it'll probably be beneficial to you. Anyways, no deep life-changing subject matter there, and we're coming up on 20 minutes, which is probably as long as I feel like anybody is going to have the stomach to listen to me ramble. So yeah, beautiful day. Love this time of year. Leaves are still on a fair number of the trees, a bunch of different colors. It's crisp, it's clear. There's a giant moon hanging in the sky. Can't ask for much more. And we're going into the weekend. Got my training done, and I'm going to have some good food tomorrow down in Fishtown. So yeah, not much more to say. All right. I will talk to y'all next week. I'm going to have my training wraps separate from my videos from now on, from these videos. I will come up with some kind of schedule for when I want to do them, when I want to post them. I'm going to have a little bit better plot on subject matter, and we'll just think through some things together. If you'd like to do that, hope to see you here. If not, freedom. Don't worry about it. All right. Take care, everybody.